Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals versus Minnesota Vikings Week 15 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there's always going to be some variation between various data points. However, there's always going to be little nuggets of truth that could become bigger nuggets of truth as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So starting with this matchup between the Bengals and the Vikings, when you get to the NFL stat basic comparison data, of course, looks at how the offense is doing, defense, and special teams from a macro standpoint. Again, all terms and definitions are in the description to kind of familiarize yourself with some of these terms, but it shouldn't be surprising that most of the data favors the Vikings. I actually like this game a lot. Because it's Zimmer is basically facing his old team. There's a lot of similar concepts between both these teams, defensively speaking, and even offensively speaking, because they're two kind of West Coasty kind of offenses as well. But the Vikings just do it better. So I always kind of find it kind of interesting that you have one guy who leaves one team and then takes some of the same model, like takes similar building blocks and ends up building something that's better at this point anyways. And but let's get into why. So first off, the Vikings just have the better offense. The Vikings have the better turnover ratio, so they don't turn the football over as much. The Vikings have the better sack percentage. They don't allow as many sacks. And the Vikings also have the better offensive score percentage, which is basically the ability to put points on the board on more drives. So offensively speaking, the Vikings have it. The Vikings also have it when it comes to their defense. When it comes to defensive offensive score percentage, the Vikings are favored here. Turnover ratio, the Vikings are also favored. Sack percentage actually goes more towards the Bengals, but interception percentage goes towards the Vikings. Then, of course, when you get into special teams data, with pretty much all the other sort of areas, the Vikings are pretty much favored in a lot of different areas. They have the better punting average, kick return average, defensive punt return average. The Bengals have the better defensive kick return, and they also have the better field goal percentage, better extra point percentage, and better punting average. So I would say the Bengals actually have the better special teams because of the field goal percentage. The field goal percentage is by far the most important special team statistic to pay attention to. It's the most indicative of winning football games, and that's just kind of how it is. But the Vikings have the superior offense, as you can see, and they also have the superior defense when it comes to defensive offensive score percentage in terms of preventing points on every per drive basis. So the Vikings are pretty much there when it comes to both those particular areas, which is why they're so heavily favored. But keep in mind that the Vikings are heavily favored because of their offense. Their offense is fantastic. There's no other way around it. The offense for the Vikings is just performing a lot better, in terms of being like a dominant, like a significantly above average offense. So definitely kind of something to kind of think about and be happy about if you're a Vikings fan. But overall, again, most of the data favors the Vikings. Now, when you get into some other sort of data points, so now we're getting into the realm of offensive split data, situational football, that kind of stuff. And when you get into this particular area between the Bengals offense and the Vikings defense when it comes to completion percentage, the Vikings defense is favored on second and third down. So, again, the Vikings defense will have success in a lot of different areas on defense, and this is one of them when it comes to completion percentage. Then, of course, you get to the Vikings offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to completion percentage as well. And this is actually a little bit more evenly matched. First down is is actually dead on even. Second down more so goes to the Bengals, and third down more so goes to the Vikings. I would give a fairly good amount of praise to the Vikings in terms of their third down completion percentage. I mean, third down is a crucial down and distance, but ultimately I would say it is a little bit more even when it comes to the first and second down situations. Then, of course, we get to first down conversion rate with the run, basically rushing downs between the Bengals offense and the Vikings defense. This area, the Vikings are favored on first and third down, with a slight advantage for the Bengals on second down. But the bottom line is the Vikings' run defense is the superior defense compared to the rushing offense for the Bengals. So I do think the Vikings will have a lot of success stuffing the run and stifling the run in this game. And then, of course, we get to the Vikings offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to rushing downs. This area, the Vikings are actually favored on second and third down. So I think the Vikings will have success rushing the football in this game. The Vikings do not have an amazing running game. I mean, they don't necessarily have they're not outstanding in one particular down and distance when it comes to their ability to create first downs with the run. But they are above average on second and third down, which is all you really need to think of and know about when it comes to this particular game. Then, of course, we get to passing downs between the Bengals offense and the Vikings defense. This particular area, the Vikings are actually favored on second and third down. Both those areas are, big indicators in terms of the success here of this particular game. And then, of course, we get to the Vikings offense versus the Bengals defense when it comes to passing downs. And in this area, the Vikings are favored on second and third down. So the Vikings offense should have a lot of success, when it comes to converting with the pass, as they have with their completion percentage. Then we get to sack rate between the Bengals offense and the Vikings defense. Pretty even between both these teams. Even on pretty dead on even on first down. Second down more so favors the Bengals, and third down actually favors the Vikings. The main down and distance I actually would pay attention to the most is third down. The Bengals have one of the worst sack rates on third down compared to the rest of the NFL, whereas the Vikings have one of the better sack rates on third down when it comes to their defense. So I would say that would be the main down and distance to kind of pay attention to and watch. Then, of course, you get to sack rate for the Vikings offense and the Bengals defense, where the Vikings are favored on first and second down, with third down being more so to the Bengals here. Then, of course, you get to interception ratio between the Bengals offense and the Vikings defense, where the Bengals are favored on first and second down. And then finally, we get to the Vikings offense versus the Bengals defense, where the Bengals are favored on third down in particular. Which is the only sort of down and distance to really worry about. So I wouldn't really worry too much about this, for the most part. So ultimately, general thoughts and feelings about this game. I think it's a Vikings victory. I know I got a lot of people commenting when I predicted the Panthers victory over the Vikings last week, and it's okay. I mean, I understand how people may feel. Their feelings kind of get hurt. But I do think that this is a game where the Vikings just have advantages in almost every single facet of the game. They have the better offense, they have the better defense, and for the most part, I think this will definitely be a bounce-back game for them. If it isn't a bounce-back game, then I would worry, because you shouldn't be losing to teams like the Bengals this late in the season. That should not happen. But ultimately, if they bounce back in this game, which I think they will, then it'll be a good setup for the rest of their season, especially getting into the playoffs. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you believe is going to win this football game? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit that notification button to let you know whenever a new video is going to drop. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.